Welcome to Screen Bytes, a podcast about gaming, technology, TV and movies. We're watching the Fallout TV series, episode by episode. Each episode will have spoilers for its relevant episode number. There will be no spoilers for later episodes.
So, episode 4 of Fallout TV series, pretty much carries on from last episode 3, in regards to Lucy's struggles with the Howard the Ghoul, in terms of her being like a hostage, and she's just like wandering the wasteland with this person, and she's trying to find the head, but she's currently a hostage with the Ghoul, and it starts off with the Ghoul going to his old friend, but at first we only hear the voice, and at first I honestly believed it was a super mutant. I was like, that voice is a super mutant. There's no way that's like anything like that. I thought they're going to find a super mutant in the house, but then when it was another Ghoul, I was like, oh, okay. The Ghoul's voice does sound a bit like, it doesn't sound like the normal Ghoul voice we hear in the games, but it seems like what they're saying is that once you eventually turn into like a proper radioactive Ghoul, your voice also makes that transition into like this proper scruffy voice, which is different to the game.
Because he's currently turning feral, and this is a bit like what we didn't see it in the previous episode, but obviously when they showed us the vials that the Ghoul is taking, I don't know if they've gone specifically to this hospital to find the guy or to find some more vials. They didn't really like state anything, or if they just stumbled upon him as they were traveling somewhere, where they go eventually.
Did you not ask him though? I remember him asking, like, have you got any...
The Ghoul they find, his name is Roger, I think. So Roger asks the Ghoul, or the Ghoul asks Roger?
I think Roger asks the Ghoul.
Yeah, but what I mean is, why is Lucy and the Ghoul there?
Because...
Why have they gone in? Have they gone in to see Roger, to see if he's got any, or have they just stumbled upon him?
Well, he must know.
Do you think they were going to steal some of him?
Well, no, because in the end, what we find out eventually is that he eats him. Howard eats Roger.
Well, I think he kills him a little bit out of sympathy, because he is starting to turn feral. So he shoots him before he turns feral. So he dies as a normal Ghoul as opposed to a feral Ghoul. And then he takes the opportunity to take some of his body as dinner, as food.
Yeah, but I think, like you say, I think that was his intention all along, though, because why would you go there anyway? Unless you were thinking he's got some vials in which he can steal something off him, or find out some information on where to get some. But it didn't seem like that the way he was talking. They were just talking about random stuff, and Roger brought up the fact is like, oh, have you got any vials for me? Can you help me out? Because you can see I'm currently going to turn any second now. But that was like it pretty much establishes Ghouls can turn into, like you say, the feral Ghouls, so they can turn berserk and just start killing like they don't have any.
It's more the fact that they are constantly turning into a feral Ghoul, and that they need to actively stave it off.
Yes.
Which that doesn't track with how Ghouls work in the game. And in fact, I actually just watched a video on YouTube, and it's a year or two old, so it's nothing in it is from the TV show. But it was pointing out that a Ghoul could go almost indefinitely without turning into a feral Ghoul. It depends on the reasons that Ghouls turn feral. There's 3 reasons that may be... you may need one of them, you may need all of them, and it's not... the stories in Fallout, all throughout the games, all 4 of them, they're not exactly... all 5 of them, they're not exactly consistent, but basically you either need to have isolation to turn into a feral Ghoul, radiation, a vast amount of radiation in a small time. So one instance was the Chinese submarine, and all the sailors on board turned into feral Ghouls. I think that's from 3 or New Vegas. And the other one is maybe a genetic, just something about the person. So sometimes families will turn into ghouls and into feral ghouls altogether. And sometimes it could be a mixture of those or just one of them. But it's not necessarily that a ghoul will eventually turn into a feral ghoul just for no other reason. They will. What makes a feral ghoul what makes a ghoul is that they are actually they age slower and they are actually regenerating. The radiation is like regenerating parts of their nervous system. So they age slower, but they still look horrific. So it is completely different to everything we've seen about ghouls and feralization in the games. The fact that they need to go and actively have the drip or meds or puffs or whatever it is that, however they administer it, that the fact that they need to stave off turning into a feral ghoul. Cannibalism is interesting.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming. I just thought he just shot him, like you say, because he felt bad for him. But then he's like, he starts cutting open his chest, and then it was quite funny because he's like, oh, wait a minute, why am I doing this? I've got this person here. She should be doing this for me, making my dinner.
Yeah, so it's quite funny because obviously she's not scared of Roger, but she was, obviously she's a little nervous. She can see that he is a little bit, not crazy, but, he's not as stable as the ghoul she's been travelling is, so she's probably on guard, but she's not scared or nervous or anything. And obviously, like, one thing I've been thinking about is her journey right from when the first raiders came into the vault and started their attack, is that she's gone from someone who's only done like combat training, and then suddenly she's like fighting, using tranq darts, slicing someone's face. I think she may have thought she'd killed her husband, but I don't know if, she then realised she didn't because her father ends up drowning him later on. And then when she first goes out into the wasteland, she's only got a tranq gun, tranq dart. So she's not looking to kill anyone, but she's got some defense for herself. And then, she sees like the rad roach get killed by dog meat, and then she goes to that town of Lily or something like that, and she sees that fight. People are dying there. And she's slowly getting introduced to more and more gruesome things. Then she has to behead the scientist. And then in this episode, she is cutting up what was once a human to store as food for the ghoul later on. And you can see you can see it in her face. She's like, she hasn't gone from 0 to 100 in a split second, but she has gone from 0 to 100 very quickly. And she has had the appropriate steps in going up. Like in the original Tomb Raider games, in the reboot in 2013, Lara Croft went from having never killed a human, and then she kills a human, and she feels quite bad about it. But then 30 seconds later, after that first human, which she felt bad about, even though it was a baddie, like someone she had to fight, she then gunned down another 10, 20, 30, 40 baddies and had no remorse at all. So it's interesting that they have had this sort of like this ramp up where she's not gone from nothing to killing someone, but there's been reasonable steps along the way. And you do see her reactions to each of it. She's got this sort of like okie dokie kind of thing about her, which she didn't do at this point, but you did see her building herself up to doing what she had to do, even though it was nasty and gross and everything.
I was going to say the one thing I kind of liked was that he actually said smooth skin in reference to the late Lucy. So I was like, yeah, that's one of my things that I said that needed to be in it.
Yeah, I see you got a smoothie of your own.
So yeah, it was close. I don't know if he said smooth skin, but yeah, smoothie, whatever. It's close enough for me. Because like every ghoul you talk to in the games is like, what are you doing, smooth skin? But I think the next part is quite crucial as well, where Lucy gets her finger cut off from the ghoul.
So basically, they're walking along. He fills up his water bottle with some radiated water. And then she finally decides that she's thirsty enough to drink some of it as well.
Yes.
She's drinking about it, as she's drinking it, she's still questioning him. Like, she's still trying to work out who he is, what he is. And he starts having another one of his coughing fits, doesn't he? And he's like, he has these moments where he's a lot weaker, and he's a lot slower to respond and everything. So she uses that opportunity to make a dash for it. I think her hands are tied, and that was it at this point. So she makes a run for it, but she only really gets around the corner, and then she discovers a crater from a nuclear bomb. And then that's when we see the old cowboy where he lasso ropes her in. And in that tussle, she bites off his finger. And then in retaliation, he cuts off her finger. And it was quite an interesting scene, because when I watched it and I saw it happen, when she bit off his finger, I was just thinking, it's like, do you know what? This is such a... Like, this guy's been alive for like 250 years or 300 years or whatever it is. And he's now having, like... Obviously, he's turned from a human to a ghoul, but now he's lost a finger, and that's a very permanent thing. Like, yes, we know they can, like, there's different ways that they can fix a human. You know, you've got that stumpy foot that scientist had, and, you know, we'll see in a second what else they can do. But at that time, I was just like, I can't believe, like, that's such a, you know, the main characters usually have plot armor. And this was something that was sort of like going against the plot armor. And then when he cut off her finger, and I was like, okay, fair enough. Finger for a finger. That makes sense. But I was thinking, well, now she's got no finger. She's missing a finger. Every time we see her hand for the next 4 episodes, they're going to have to make sure they've CGI'd it out. They've made a ton of extra work for themselves. So... yeah, it's quite a, you know, she's lived her whole life inside the vault. It's been actually quite a perfect life, and, you know, especially compared to the people up above in the wasteland. And within, like, what, a week, she's lost a finger. Quite a permanent disfiguration.
There wasn't really a reaction either, was there, regarding her cutting off of finger?
Well, the thing is, she's actually, at this point, she is very weak. Because she's been travelling half barefoot through the desert. She's not had much water. So when he's cutting off her finger, you can see she is in some shock. Like, she's like, I can't believe this is happening. There is some pain in her face, but she's actually quite weak at this point to really respond. And they focus more on him anyway, because he says this line about, this is the first honest exchange that we've had the whole time or something. And then they cut to the other storyline that happened. So we don't dwell on her after it happens at all. It's one of those things that, again, they play this sort of gore for humour, because the next time we see them, they are at the Super Duper Mart, and he talks, you know, the ghoul is talking into the tannoy or the intercom, and he's talking about the transaction, and he's like, oh, we've got a mint human for the transaction. And he goes back after looking at the finger, says near mint. And it's just one of those things where it's like, yes, like, she has had this horrific, gruesome loss of limb or an appendage or whatever it's classified as, but they're still kind of playing it off as a laugh, as a joke or something like that in some sense. So she goes into the Super Duper Mart, and then we meet a Mr. Handy robot. What did you think about the Mr. Handy?
I knew he was evil, or he was going to do something evil.
Do you know who voices him?
Person from the game, isn't it?
It's Matt Berry, who is in the Peep Show and a few other things with, like, David Mitchell and that other guy.
Really? It actually sounded like the guy from the game.
Doesn't sound like the guy from the game at all, other than the fact that it is a very British accent. No, it's Matt Berry, and because it's Matt Berry...
So, hello there!
Is Matt Berry... He's in the Peep Show... I think he's in the Peep Show, but he's also in some other things, and he is a bit of a arsehole character in that TV series. So, if you've seen those shows, his accent is kind of synonymous with the kind of character that he is playing, that Mr. Handy as. So basically, but I was surprised at he was very shiny, very clean for being 250 years old at this point.
Yeah,
I know he's inside compared to compared to the Mr. Handy to Codsworth in Fallout 4. But also he was massive. I think he's a lot larger than in the games.
The thing is, they must have spent a lot of time trying to locate a robot like that and trying to reprogram the robot so that it can do the surgeries that it wants it to
Possibly.
do.
It depends. It depends whether they found the robot, whether they bought the robot or something or whatever, whether they went out and found a medical robot or, like you say, found a robot and then sort of allocated it. Because I know in Fallout 4, the medical robots are usually like a female, more of a female character, and they're a different colour. They're white, not silver or chrome or something. I guess they have had to reprogram it or pay someone to reprogram it. But so she goes in, she's lost her finger, but they kind of go against that and they manage to have a finger transplanted back on. I mean, it's a horrible, mouldy, rotting finger, so it's not ideal, but a finger is a finger. Now, she's sort of complaining about how the ghoul has been treating her and she thinks she's somewhere safe, basically. And he doesn't seem... The robot is quite friendly, but he's a bit creepy in the same sense, because basically he's like, she's like, I thought I was going to be sold to a sex slave or something like that. And he's like, sex slave? How disgusting. I'm simply going to harvest your organs. And he says it in such a positive manner.
It's like, how dare you say, like, how dare you think like this? Yeah, that was quite funny.
No, don't worry. I'm just going to harvest your organs. And she's like, no.
And her face was just, Lucy's face was like, oh, what? Because she actually believed some of it. Like she was going along with it. Like
Well, it's not that she didn't believe him because he wasn't lying or anything to her. He was just being friendly because he's a house robot, and house robots are supposed to be friendly. No matter what he's doing, even though he's doing something that's a bit, crooked or whatever, he still has to be friendly and polite. So she mistook friendly and polite for a friend and an ally, which he's not. He's not that at all.
Yeah, definitely not. But he did restore her finger, which was kind of strange as well, because I don't think that's even possible, is it? The way he done it, because he just picked up some random
and then laser
finger.
I don't know. I don't know. That being said, plastic surgery does exist in Fallout 4, so I don't see why it can't.
I just think that if it's been that long, the finger is literally lost, like it's dead.
Yes,
like,
yeah.
If it's been cut off and it's quite recent, like a few hours, even a few hours. Like,
yeah, but that's the thing. Like they didn't put
lucky.
her finger back on. It was just some random finger.
And that's gonna look weird though, because if they put it back on and then blood starts getting to the finger will start looking normal again, I suppose.
It's still not her finger.
Yeah, but that's not how it really works.
Of course not. And the other thing is, if they're just going to process her and take all of her organs, why do they need to put the finger back on her? Just seems pointless, other than the fact that she's met someone capable of putting a finger back on her, so we don't feel so bad for her.
I suppose when they come to like selling the organs, they can say it. Look, she's got all of her fingers, she's got her arms, she's got her legs. There's nothing wrong with her. Because I suppose like if you're going to buy someone's organs, they want to know like if there's anything
wrong with the body.
But the thing is, like they had. So I know I'm skipping ahead a bit, but they had other people in like cells or in these little tube of glasses.
Fridges. They were storing them in. It's a supermarket. Those are just the cold aisle chiller cabinets.
Yeah, but they weren't even good. Like those people were just ugly, old.
I think what they were doing is they were basically keeping them alive, and then once someone needs a heart or a liver, then they would take them and process them. For whatever reason, they decided that they were going to process her immediately. What did you think about the two guys?
They reminded me of the two guys from Breaking Bad who are like stoners.
Okay, I've not seen Breaking Bad, but
they're just like two stoners are like, hey, yeah. Or like, have you seen like probably like Clerks? Have you seen the film Clerks? When they're just like two Kevin. What's his name? Not Kevin. I forgot his name. But yeah, they're just two guys just sitting on the sofa. Like, it didn't seem like they were taking everything in.
No, and it's like, how have these two managed to build up this business of like transacting people and well,
Obviously not.
No, I mean, obviously, maybe they started it before they had drugs, and then they got the robot afterwards.
I don't think it is. I think there's someone else
who runs it, and they're just there. Okay, maybe
someone else be involved, and they're just
there to give authority to the robot.
Yeah. Yeah. It was quite surprising there was only like 2 people there. On an operation like that, you would have like at least 10 people, especially as security as well, because I know it looked like it was impossible to get through the door. But
it's a supermarket. You'll find a way in.
You'll find a way in, yeah. Not a lot of security. They basically did like the Indiana Jones kind of effect, where, you know, in Indiana Jones, where Indy is going through like a cave and this shutter starts coming down and it looks like Indy's going to be stuck and he has to like squeeze through and he's got like 10 seconds remaining and it looks like he's not going to make it, and then another camera angle is focusing on the shot, and then it looks like, oh, it seems like he does have a chance, and then it seems like he doesn't have a chance, and then another camera angle comes into view and you're like, oh, he does have a chance, and then he makes it. He manages to escape the shutter from coming down and squashing him. So it's like that. You know when Lucy was getting attacked by the robot, she manages to escape. And it looked like the robot, he got like that chainsaw or some sort of saw, and he was got... Actually, she was laying down on the bed, wasn't she? And he was getting closer and closer. And yeah, like it seemed like the robot was just about to get her. And then like another camera angle, and she's like, she gets a little bit further away. And then like a second later, she gets even more further away. But it seemed
so I rewatched it this morning, and I did pay attention to that scene. So yeah, you're right. There's 2 camera angles. There's one that's looking from her left, where you can see both of them together, and then the other camera angle is her POV. And basically, there's like 3 stages of it. So the first is the buzzsaw is coming up to her. Somehow she manages to get her arm or leg free, and then she kicks him, which causes him to buzzsaw the medical table to her left. Once she's done that, she somehow manages to roll off the opposite way, just as he goes to buzzsaw her chest. So he then ends up buzzsawing the cart that she was rolled in on, the bed thing, the trolley. And then as it's coming up to her for the final thing, and you think there's nowhere else she can go, she finds a defibrillator that is miraculously already charged, and then she uses that to shock him and put him out of the fight. An interesting fight. None of it remotely realistic, except maybe the first time she managed to get one of her limbs free, but the rest of it basically impossible to do. But there's a lot of that. There's a lot of timing in the fight scene that just wouldn't be possible. We see this later on, and I'll come back to it when it's relevant, but it's just things are happening way too quick, especially for someone who hasn't had any real combat experience other than training. It's good for the TV show, but it's just not realistic for what she would be able to do in real life.
Thing is with that though, like you can put that down to adrenaline, where if your life is at stake, you can do your body's just like, I have to do this. I've got to do this somehow.
Yeah, but what I mean is, it's a gurney. She was strapped to the gurney. There's no way in the time that she got off of the gurney to where the defibrillator was, there's no way you'd be able to undo the straps enough to free your arm and your leg when you've only got one hand available to do any of that work. If there was a second person undoing the straps, that would take longer than she takes to do it on her own. And again, it's been sped up for timing and pacing and to keep the audience entertained. I get that, but obviously at the same time, it's completely unrealistic. With the defibrillator, now defibrillators in TV and movies don't work the same way that defibrillators actually work in real life. But in TV and movies, they do still need to charge up to have enough power to do to deliver the power for that thing. But she picks them up and immediately hits Mr. Handy with them, and they're already at max strength. Maybe defibrillators work differently in the Fallout universe, and they'll just strike it. You know, maybe it's got a power cell, a fusion core within it, so it's not running off batteries, it's running off a fusion core, so it can do that without any delay. I don't know. They could come up with some reason, but everything happens a lot quicker than it should do. Shouldn't be. It's not a huge it's not really, like I said, it's not really a huge issue, but yeah, that was incredibly unrealistic. But, at least she has survived. That's the main thing. And
then she holds the two guys hostage after that.
Yeah, so this is when we see her naivety come back. Puts some Abraxo in the syringe, in the tranq darts, and uses the Mr. Handy to hold them hostage and force them to free the prisoners. Now, they've got two types of prisoners. They've got, I think there was ghouls, humans, and then feral ghouls. So they let go the ghouls and the humans. And I did pay attention the second time I watched, and there was definitely at least one or two people who were freed the first time, because the guy who said thank you or something like that, he definitely had no, so he must be a ghoul. So they go off, and then she sees Martha is still in the cage, in the fridge. And when she arrived in, Martha was muttering to herself. She was like, Martha, my name is Martha. Martha, my name is Martha, because she's slowly turning feral. So she's saying her name is Martha, and we'll see that in a second. They release Martha, and it turns out there are other ghouls at the same stage as her, or further down than she is, like they're more feral than she is. And we get that when the hand comes out, dong, onto the glass of the fridge. And that's when Lucy realises that she's been a bit too naive to release everyone without, maybe checking or listening to the guys. So there's 3, I think, that come out. They start charging. Lucy manages to dodge out the way, and then the 2 junkies, they're slow, but they suddenly have their wits about them a little bit more, and they kind of manage to get up. And they manage to fight off the 3 ghouls, but not without dying themselves. Like, one of the guy gets eaten almost immediately, and then the other guy, I think he's the one who actually manages to shoot all 3 of them, but he doesn't survive. He shoots the final one as he's having his neck ripped open. So, not great. Lucy has inadvertently caused the death of 2 not innocent people, but people who weren't expecting to die just then. And she's kind of coming to terms with that at this point. And then you hear, Martha, my name is Martha. Ah, Martha, my name is Martha. Ah! And then Lucy turns around and she's like, yeah, you are Martha. Martha, there's someone in there. Talk to me. Talk to me. And then Martha's like, ah!
I was waiting for her just to get killed.
And this is another one of those times where I say the timing is just way too short. Martha is way too close for Lucy to have picked up that gun. Lucy drops to the floor, picks up the gun, aims it, and shoots Martha whilst Martha is in the air, flying towards her. Now, I think this is Lucy's first kill, or is her first human kill in the game.
Yes.
So she's killed, she's shot people with tranquilizer darts, she's beheaded people, she's cut up dead people, she's caused the death of different things, like that deer and these 2 guys, but she's never actually killed someone. She's got the blood of Martha all on her face, and you can see she's affected by it a little bit. But we don't see much more of her until she reappears outside, and she's adjusted herself. She's taken off the top of her Fallout, her Vault-Tec suit, or she's rolled it down or something. She's patched her shoulder up. She's got some Raider armor. She's still got that 10mm auto pistol, and she has a new sense of strength about her. She's got something over the ghoul, and that something isn't power, it's kindness. Because despite how much of an arse he has been to her, he has used her as bait in the previous episode, he's dragged her as a hostage, he's chopped off her finger in retaliation to her biting his off, but she brings him some vials. So, and I think I spoke about this in our pre-episode, and it's about how the person who leaves the vault, will she show kindness? And she has spoken about the golden rule a couple of times. She mentioned it in the previous episode, and this is her showing that she can still show kindness, and she wants to show kindness wherever she can. She tried to do it with Martha. She really honestly tried to show Martha kindness, but she wasn't able to. But she can still show kindness to the ghoul, and she hasn't at this point, she's not really holding anything against him. Like, I think she knows that traveling with him could be beneficial. She's probably safer with him than on her own. And this might be a moment where her character has changed just enough. He now has some respect for her. He still is going to do what he wants to do, but they kind of both need to do a similar sort of thing. So maybe they will kind of travel together a bit more on friendly terms for a bit.
And he managed to get the valves that he needed from the Super Duper Mart. There was like 100 of them.
I'm surprised he didn't take the whole lot. He only took a few. He took like a handful, like 20 of them, instead of like the whole case. I know the case is massive, but he could have like found a bag or stuffed them in his trousers or something like that.
I think what was he doing? Put them in his hat or something?
He put them in his hat. He dropped the hat on the floor because obviously the next bit is he found a videotape of the film that we saw him filming in the previous episode. He shot the guy. And he did shoot the guy. And it was justified because he was a commie. Do you think seeing his pre-Ghoul self, do you think that's going to... I mean, I think this whole episode, I think it's probably going to change who he is. He's kind of this character that we don't like, but the TV show wants us to follow him. He's kind of a bad, good, bad, he's a good, bad character, a bad, good character, one of the two, I'm not 100% sure. We've seen that he had a daughter. He doesn't have a daughter at the moment, whether she died, ghoulified, turned into a raider, not 100% sure. After this episode, do we think he's going to be a better person? A more positive person in the Commonwealth, in the Wasteland? Like, surely this has got to change him, can't it?
Yeah, I think what you said about in terms of respect for Lucy, I think she might get that, but I think if he changes his ways, then he's a liability of getting killed or not getting enough valves.
I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't survive the series, actually.
Wait and see.
I could see a situation where in episode 7 or 8 he sacrifices himself. There's been enough of a change that he has a redemption. Maybe they find his daughter dead or alive somewhere, and he has a redemption moment or an attempt of redemption somewhere. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't survive the series. I
suppose the other thing we need to talk about is the what's going on in the vault, on what we find out.
Yeah, quite a lot actually. Obviously, the two guys who were leading that meeting, I haven't got their names on the sheet, but it's McPhee and Woody, I think.
Yeah. I think you're right.
Woody and Reg. It's Reg McPhee and Woody something. Yep. So it's funny because they're holding elections and they're both trying to get the votes to become the overseer. But they are so impossibly positive and friendly toward each other. It is almost sickening. But in the confines of a vault, it's not surprising. Like, this vault has clearly built an environment where everyone is incredibly friendly towards each other, even when they have, even if there's bad things going on. So, yeah, they're still working together. Trying to get some information out of the raiders, not going terribly well.
Pretty much, F you, leave us alone. They don't like the food, they don't like anything. Well, they're just like, this is what they've been doing for all their lives, so why should they change? But they decide to, which I kind of feel like the overseers should have assigned this kind of task anyway, to try and find out what happens in the other vault.
Yeah, this is one of those things. So,
and the way they blocked the doorway off with some stones.
Well, no, that's from the explosion. That's the that's the explosion that Moldova set off.
That's true. They still could do a better job to secure that then.
Yeah, but I was thinking about that. It's like obviously there's stuff that happens before that. So, but obviously eventually Norman and Chet, they go into the next vault, and it didn't take them much effort to remove the stones to get enough to get through. So yes,
that's my point.
Basically, if they wanted to secure the vaults between, the intervault doors, they could have just had a line of people to remove enough of those stones so they could bring the vault door across and then block it off again. But I don't know why that wasn't a priority, except for it wouldn't serve the story. Everything has to serve the story, the plot, and everything like that. So we see Norman, he's a bit upset that he had been hiding during the storage thing. But Lucy actually put him in that storage place. Like, he didn't go in there of his own accord. Like, Lucy put him in there as protection. But he's feeling bad about it. Then we have this very awkward scene with Chet. Do you remember who Chet is? So Chet is Lucy and Norman's cousin.
Yes.
And he's the one who opened the gate. He's visited by the pregnant lady who got stabbed in the eye, Steph. And she's got all of her late husband's things. And she asks how he's doing. He asks how she's doing. Turns out neither of them are doing particularly very well. She's obviously a grieving widow, and not only does she want to give him her husband things, she asks him to put them on. So she dresses him in
quite weird.
in a scarf and in a cardigan, and then she starts to think he's Bert.
He is Jet. Oh, he's Bert. Yeah.
He's Bert.
The guy that's
husband.
died.
Yep. And then she starts hugging him and then kissing him and then making out with him. Now, I will say, like, this is a perfect scenario for this to actually happen. Like, this has probably happened in real life. This isn't an unrealistic situation. We've got a grieving widow who is also heavily pregnant, and hormones play into things. Grieving and hormonal woman, they do go together to make weird situations like this. So she wants to have sex with him, imagining that he is her husband. Fortunately for him, I mean, he's quite happy to go ahead with it. But anyway, fortunately for him, or unfortunately, she goes into labour in his apartment. So
her water breaks.
Everything that's about to happen, or that could have happened, has basically, it's not secret anymore. It's just been revealed to the whole vault. Thankfully for him, Norman comes along and asks if he wants to get out of the house. And that's how we get to these two sneaking into Vault 32. Now, the reason they're going into Vault 32 is one of the prisoners kind of said something to Norman. Said something about them being sick puppies, or, they're certainly not innocent, or something like that. And he couldn't access the records through his father's terminal. So he wants to get over there and have a look for himself. And obviously he's already been over there once, and he's seen the state of their field, and I think he saw one dead body, decomposing body. So he already knows it's not hunky-dory over there. So he goes through and finds out that, and again, this is one of the things where they're using the Pit Boys quite a lot, which is quite good. But obviously they've got the lights on the Pit Boys, and then he uses another Pit Boy attached to someone and realises that they've been dead for 2 years or so.
There's also writing on the wall saying, "We know what you did."
Yeah, they start, there's stuff about, like, "We know the truth," "death to management," that kind of stuff. And eventually they make it to the overseer's office, where the overseer's been tied to the chair. Now, when they went into one of the rooms and the TV was playing, and do you remember the TV, and it was talking about rats?
Yes.
So that section, it was talking about rats, and it was talking about overpopulation, and then once they get overpopulated, then they start to eat each other, or something like that. So I think that this Vault's experiment was overpopulation. So I wonder if these three Vaults, we've got 3 Vaults altogether. 32 has overpopulation, so there's not enough resources to go around for everyone. So then they start killing each other. 33 seems very normal. Everything has worked out for them. There's been no problems, really. So maybe 31 is underpopulation. So it seems to be that this is the only instance that we know of where there's 3 Vaults all together. So I'm going to guess that they've all had identical starting points, like 100 people in the beginning. They've all got the same sort of field of crops where they can grow, and that's going to be the difference. Like 32 has too many people, 31 has not enough people, and 33 has the sweet spot amount of people in their vault. It's just a guess from what that TV snippet. It felt important. That's all I thought. So once they get to the overseer's office, that's when they kind of find out the biggest kicker of them all. Like, how did the raiders get in? It's quite funny because Chet is going on about, oh, the people have gone crazy. They must have gone crazy. They've been crazy to let the raiders in, or it looks like they've killed each other. It's like, the way he's talking about it is so... again, it's that Vault-Tec naivety. He just can't believe that they would behave in such a way. But Norman eventually goes into the terminal and finds out that not only was it opened from the outside, but it was opened up by his mother.
Which you need a Pip-Boy.
Yeah, so it was opened by his mother's Pip-Boy. Whether it was opened up by Rose McLean, whether it was opened up by her or someone with her Pip-Boy, we're not sure. But yes, it's just another instance where, again, we're seeing her, their mother kind of coming in, being linked with the Raiders in some way or another.
I suppose the reason why they can do that is because if a vault dweller is outside the vault, then that would mean that it is okay then to come out, everyone to come out, so that they can let the people know inside the vault that it's okay.
Possibly.
But it might seem in this scenario, there's two scenarios. Either the woman's gone crazy and she's decided to let the people open the vault when it should never have been open because it's still dangerous outside, radiation, raiders. Number two, like you say, she could have had it stolen and someone else opened the vault.
Oh, and actually, one thing I didn't spot, but so Norman found out that guy had died 2 years ago, and obviously they didn't all die at the same time, but they would have died roughly at the same time, like within 6 months of each other. They'd have started dying. But we didn't see when. Maybe we did see, or we missed it, but didn't see when the vault door was opened. So did they come in like 6 months ago, 2 years ago?
They didn't say.
No, they kind of. I think I tried to see on the screen if there was any indication, but it was garbled in such a way that it didn't make any sense to me while I was watching. But yeah, like they might have only been there 6 months and they stumbled upon... I think that's kind of what the prisoner alluded to, didn't he? He was like, I don't know what they were up to, but it certainly wasn't innocent. So yeah, they obviously arrived after... So those raiders had nothing to do with what happened in Vault 32 at all.
Which begs the question though, like, how comes the raiders... If that happened 2 years ago, that all of them died, let's say, because that person's been there for 2 years... The age of death is 2 years by him scanning the Pip-Boy. Surely there's some raider. It must have been recent that the vault door got opened.
Why did they stick around? Like, why did they? Well, they must have contacted Hank, the overseer of 33.
That must have been the raider
terminal that Norman used there. They did that without moving the overseer's chair out the way like Norman did. There must have been quite a few communications back and forth to arrange the marriage and all of that. So it's interesting, small things, It
doesn't really. And why is it so dark that you can't see shit? Like, how can you work in that environment? And if you've been there for like a few months, like had communication, who wants to be walking around with bodies around? Surely you would have disposed of them.
Oh, exactly. Well, that being said, raider camps in the games quite often have bones and bodies and dismembered heads just randomly about as decoration. So actually, it's not that surprising.
Yeah, that's true.
I would actually say this has been one of my favourite episodes so far. Even though it's only had 2 stories in it, we've not seen Max and Thaddeus at all in this episode. I really enjoyed this episode, and especially when I watched it for the second time, like I still enjoyed it. And I thought it was quite a good episode. Even though this felt like what you said, like it's almost a bottle episode. It's like one of those episodes where not that much happens except a little bit of character growth.
There you go. So I got what I wanted.
But they did it in a good way. And both storylines were side missions. They'd have been in your miscellaneous section of your Pip-Boy. That's what I think.
Yeah, because
they're not part of the main. They're not part of the main quest, but they're like a side bit that you do.
Which is quite funny because
to do the
main quest in the vault is the problem with the water supply, and they haven't really discussed it at all.
No, like you said, they could have gone to Vault 32's water chip and seen, they could, whilst they were there, they're still there when we left the episode, so maybe they will do that in the next one. But it's like, whilst you're there, why not go get the water chip and just see if it's compatible, see if it still works. I think we're going to see a lot more from Norman, actually. Like, even though he's not the main Vault-Tec character, I think we're going to see more from him.
Oh, something... There is a reason. There's got to be a reason why we are concentrating on the vault as well as the characters outside the vault.
Yeah,
something's going to happen. Something's going to happen. Either it's all going to somehow link together somehow near the end, or maybe Lucy has to come back for some reason because something's going to happen to the vault.
I wouldn't be surprised if she never returns.
No, I think she might go back.
Maybe she'll return, but she'll stay above ground.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah. But I think there'll be a reason. They need to access some sort of vault. I don't know. But yeah, I think that pretty much wraps up. I don't think there's anything else.
Yeah, yep.
Sorry about the noise. I told her recording that goes in one ear, goes out the other ear, I suppose.
Thank you for listening to this episode. We will be back with another episode looking at the Fallout TV series.